Welcome to Computer Networks. Welcome to DevNet Associate Module 3 Software Development and Design Content Part 1. Why should I take this module? As an AutoCAD student, you probably already know that the world of networking is always changing and there is always something new to learn. Right now, IT specialists are being argued to learn to develop software that lets them automate many of the tasks of network creation, maintenance, and administration. There are many software development methodologies to choose from, and you should learn from software engineering best practices. In your career, you will develop software collaboratively as well as independently. This means that source control will be a big part of your work as a developer. This complete module provides context for where software development is today and shows you modern software development methods to create that all important business or user outcome. In this module we have learned software development. The objective of software development indicates the compare software development methodologies and software design patterns, vision control systems, coding basics, code review and testing, understanding data formats. In this video we will learn software development, software design patterns and version control systems, and next part we will discuss coding basics, code review and testing, understanding data formats. The first part, software development. The software development process is also known as the software development lifecycle, that is SDLC. This process is more than just coding. It also including gathering requirements, creating a proof of concept, testing and fixing bugs. In this module, we discuss phases in the software development lifecycle followed by methodologies for managing the real world requirements of software projects. The methodologies discussed here begin with the waterfall model, which emphasizes upfront planning. Other methodologies in this topic, such as Agile and Lean, are more dynamic and adaptive than the waterfall method. Now you can see the software development life cycle. The first phase, requirements and analysis. Second phase, design. Third phase, implementation. Fourth one, testing. Fifth one, deployment. And sixth one, maintenance. The software development life cycle, SDLC, is the process of developing software, starting from an idea and ending with the delivery. This process consists of total 6 phases. Each phase takes input from the results of the previous phase. There is no standard SDLC, so that exact phases can vary, but the most common are phase 1 requirements analysis, phase 2 design, phase 3 implementation, phase 4 testing, phase 5 deployment and phase 6 maintenance. Historically, development teams usually followed these phases in order in the waterfall method. The goal of waterfall was to complete each phase of SDLC down to the last detail before proceeding to the next, never returning to a prior phase and writing everything down along the way. Although The waterfall methods still widely used today. It's gradually being by more adaptive, flexible methods that product produce better software that run faster with less pain. These methods are collectively known as the agile development. It is important to understand that the SDLC can be applied many different ways. Its phases can be repeated and the order reversed. Individually, phases can be performed at many levels in a parallel. For example, requirements can be gathered separately for user interface details, back-end integrations, operating and performance parameters, and etc. Now, we will look at each and every phases of SDLC in complete detail and their classic order. Okay, remember in this module, this is a description, not a prescription. Okay, the first stage, first phase, requirements and analysis phase. The goal of the requirements and analysis phase is to answer several types of the questions. These begin with exploring stakeholders, current situation, needs and constraints, present infrastructure, etc. They are determining what problems the new software needs to solve. After the problem is better defined, more concentrate issues can be explored to determine where and in what context the new software will need to live. When answers to such questions are compiled, it's time to begin exploring more precious requirements by focusing on desired features and user experience. Finally, the team begins accessing architectural options for building the software itself. For most enterprise applications, this means many iterations of defining requirements for the software's front end and back end. You will also need to provide points of integration for the other applications as well as the services for the lifecycle management. After gathering requirements, the team analyzes the results to determine the following. Is it possible to develop software according to these requirements, and can it be done on budget? Are there any risk to be development schedule, and if so, what are they? How will the software be tested? When and how will the software be delivered? At the conclusion of these phase, the classic waterfall method suggests creating a software requirements specification SRS document, which states the software requirements and scope and confirm the complete details by stakeholders. The next phase, design and implementation phases. Design phase, first one. The design phase classically takes the SRS document from the requirements and analysis phase as input. During the design phase, the software architects and developers design the software based on the provided SRS. At the conclusion of the design phase, the team creates high-level design HLD and low-level design LLD documents. The HLD high-level design gives 10,000 foot view of the proposed software, and it describes the general architecture, components and their relationships, and also provide additional detail. And coming to the LLD, low-level design, based on the HLD document, it describes in much greater detail the architecture of individual components, the protocols used to communicate among them, and enumerates required classes and other aspects of the design. Next one, implementation. The implementation phase classically takes the HLD and LLD from the design phase as input. The implementation phase is often called the coding or development phase. During this phase, the developers take the decision documentation and develop the code according to the design. All of the components and modules are built during this phase, which makes implementation the longest phase of the life cycle. During this phase, testing engineers are also writing the test plan. At the conclusion of implementation phase, functional code that implements all of the customer's requirements is ready to be tested. The next phase, testing, deployment and maintenance phases. Testing. The testing phase classically takes the software code from the implementation phase as input. During this phase, the test engineers take the code and install it into the testing environment, so they can follow the test plan. The test plan is a document that includes a list of every single test to be performed in order to cover all the features and functionality of the software as specified by the customer requirements. In addition, the functional testing the test engineers also perform: integration testing, performance testing and security testing. When code does not pass a test, the test engineer identifies the bug which gets passed to the developers. After the bug is fixed, the test engineers will retest the software. This back and forth between the test and development engineers continues until all of the code passes all of the tests. At the conclusion of the testing phase, a high quality, a bug-free working piece of software is ready for production. In theory, in practice, this rarely happens. Developers have learned how to test more efficiently, how to build the testing into automated workflows, and how to test software at many different levels of detail and abstraction. From the tiniest of low-level function definitions to large-scale component aggregations, they have also learned the software is never bug-free and must instead be definitions to large-scale component aggregations. They have also learned the software is never bug-free and must instead be made observable, tested in production, and made resilient so it can remain available and perform adequately despite issues. And coming to the next phase, deployment. The deployment phase takes the software from the testing phase as input. During the deployment phase, the software is installed into the production environment. If there are no deployment issues, the product manager works with the architecture and the qualified engineers to decide whether the software is ready to be released. At the end of the deployment phase, the final piece of the software is released at a customer environment to the end users. Coming to the maintenance phase. During the maintenance phase, in team provides support for the customers, fixes bugs found in production, works on software improvements, gather new requests from the customer. At the conclusion of the maintenance phase, the team is ready to work on the next iteration and version of the software, which brings the process back to the beginning of the SDLC and the requirements analysis phase. Now let us discuss the software development methodologies. A software development methodology is also known as the software development lifecycle model. These methodologies are nothing more than a set of rules, steps, roles, and principles. Many different methodologies exist, but we will focus on three most popular methodologies. First one, waterfall, agile, and lean. Each methodology has its own pros and cons. Deciding on which to use depends on many factors, such as the type of project, length of the project, and size of the team. Based upon these information, we will select the which software development methodologies. Okay, first methodology, waterfall software development. There the different steps are involved. The first steps of system requirements, software requirements, analysis, program design, coding, testing, operations. Waterfall is the traditional software development model and is still practiced to this day. The waterfall model is nearly identical to the software development lifecycle because each phase depends on the results of the previous phase. With waterfalls, the water flows in one direction only. With the waterfall method, the process goes in one direction and can never go backwards. Think of it like a relay race where one runner has to finish their distance before handing the baton to the next person who is waiting for them. The baton always goes in a forward motion. It is said that the original waterfall models was created by Winston Royce. His original model consists of the 7 phases: system requirements, software requirements, analysis, program design, coding, testing, operations. As you can see, the waterfall model is really just one iteration of the software development lifecycle. There are now many variations of the phases in the waterfall model, but the idea that each phase cannot overlap and must be completed before moving to the remains the same, because of the outcome of each phase is critical for the next. One wrong decision can detail the whole iteration. Therefore, most implementation of the waterfall model requires documentation summarizing the finding of each phase as the input for the next phase. If the requirements change during the current iteration, those new requirements cannot be incorporated until the next waterfall iteration, which can get costly for large software projects and cause significant delays before requested features are made available to users. Next software development methodology, Agile software development. The Agile method is a flexible and customer focused, although methodologies similar to Agile were already being practiced. The Agile model wasn't official until 2001, when 17 software developers joined together to figure out the solution to their frustrations with the current options and came up the manifesto for Agile software development, also known as the Agile Manifesto. In the Agile Manifesto, according to the Agile Manifesto, the value of the Agile are individual and iterations over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. And also the manifesto lists 12 different principles. The first principle, customer focus. Okay, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through customer through early and continuous delivery of the valuable software. And next principle, embrace change and adapt. Welcome changing requirements. Even late in the development, Agile process harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Next principle, frequent delivery of working software. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks is to couple of months, with the preference to the shorter time scale. Collaboration. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Next one, motivated teams. Build projects around the motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Next principle, face-to-face conversation. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development teams is face-to-face conversation. Working software. Working software is the primary measure of the process or progress. Work is a sustainable phase. Agile process promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers and users should be able to maintain a constant phase indefinitely. Agile environment. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhance agility. Next principle, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. Self-organizing teams. The best architectures, requirements and design emerge from self-organizing teams. Continuous improvement. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Now discuss the complete more information regarding to the Agile methods. Agile methods. The Agile manifesto by design wasn't precious about how Agile should work. After forgetting the manifesto, its organizers and many people kept evolving these ideas, absorbing new ideas from many sources. Okay, here as a result, for the past few decades, many takes Agile have emerged and some have become widely popular. These include Agile Scrum, Lean, Extreme Programming and Feature Driven Development (FDDD). These are the widely used popular methods in Agile. Agile Scrum. In rugby, the term Scrum describes the point in a gameplay where the players crowd together and try to gain possession of the ball. The Scrum focus on small, self-organizing teams that meet daily for the short periods and work in the iterative sprints, constantly adapting deliverables and meet changing requirements. Coming to the Lean. Based on lean manufacturing, the Lean method emphasizes elimination of wasted effort in planning and execution and reduction of programmer cognitive load. Next method, Extreme Programming (XP). Compared with the Scrum, XP is the more prescriptive about the software engineering best practices and more deliverability, addresses the specific kinds of quality of the life issues facing the software development teams. Next one, Feature Driven Development (FDD). FDD prescribes that software development should proceed in terms of an overall model, broken out, planned, designed and built feature by feature. It is specified the process of modeling used to estimate and plan future delivery and detailed set of roles for both core development team and support people. And of the methodologies described above, Agile Scrum is probably most popular. Okay, we will discuss some Scrum terms and concepts below that have been more or less universally adopted by the Agile community across all the methodologies. A sprint. In the Agile model, the software development lifecycle still applies, unlike the waterfall method where there is one long iteration of the SDLC. Agile is many quick iterations of the SDLC. These quick iterations are called sprints, and the purpose of sprints is to accomplish the frequent delivery of working software principle of the Agile manifesto. A sprint is a specific period of time, that is nothing but time boxed, which is usually between 2 weeks and 4 weeks, but preferably as short as possible. The duration of the sprint should be determined before the process begins and should rarely change. During the sprint, each team takes on as many tasks, also known as the user stories, as they feel they can accomplish within the time boxed duration of the sprint. When the sprint is over, the software should be working and deliverable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be delivered a sprint. A sprint doesn't always lead to a release, but Agile requires the software to remain deliverable. Backlog. It is the role of the product owner and create the backlog. The backlog is made up of all the features of the software in a prioritized list. The features in the backlog are result of the requirements analysis phase and include the features that won't be necessary with the immediate release. Next one, user stories. When a feature gets close to the top of the priority list, it gets broken down into smaller tasks called user stories. Each user story should be small enough that a single team can finish it within the single sprint. And a user story is a simple statement of what a user needs and why. The suggested template for the user story is as a user role, I would like to action so that value benefit. Completing the user story requires completing all of the phases of the SDLC. The user story itself should be already have the requirements defined by the product owner, and the team taking on the user story needs to come up with the design for the task, implement it and test it. And Scrum teams. Scrum teams are the cross-functional, collaborative, self-managed and self-empowered. Ideally, these Scrum teams should not be larger than 10 individuals, but they should be big enough to finish a user story within a sprint. Every day, each Scrum team should have daily stand-up. A stand-up is a meeting that should last no longer than 15 minutes and should take the place at the same time every day. In fact, it is called the stand-up because ideally it should be short enough for the team to accomplish it without having to sit down. The goal of the daily stand-up is to keep all the team members in synchronization with what each person has accomplished since the last stand-up, what they are going to work on until the next stand-up, and what obstacles they have that may be preventing them from finishing their task. The Scrum Master facilitates the 3 stand-ups, and their job is to report and help remove obstacles. The next one, lean software development. Lean software development is based on the lean manufacturing principles, which are focused on minimizing waste and maximizing value to the customer. In its simplest form, lean software development delivers only what the customer wants. Okay, in this book, Lean Software Development, in the Agile Toolkit, there are 7 principles for the lean software. Eliminate waste, amplify learning, decide as late as possible, deliver as fast as possible, empower the team, build integrity, optimize the whole. Okay, first principle, eliminate waste. Waste is anything that does not add value for the customer. The definition of value is subjective. However, because it's determined by the customer, eliminating waste is the most fundamental lean principle, the one from which all the other principles below. To eliminate waste, you must be able to understand what waste is. Waste is anything that does not add direct value to the customer. There are seven the waste of the software development: partially done work, extra process, extra features, task switching, waiting, motion, defects. These are the seven waste of the software development. Partially done work. Partially done work is a waste because it doesn't add any value to the customer. The time and resources spent doing this work could have been used on something that is the value of the customer. The work usually isn't maintained, so it is evenly becomes obsolete. Extra process. Extra process are just like a bunch of paperwork. As a result, they are waste for pretty much the same reasons are partially done work. Extra features. If the customer didn't ask for it, it doesn't bring them value. It might be nice to have, but it's better to use the resource to build exactly what customer want. Task switching. Humans need time to switch their mind to focus on another task, and that time spent switching context is waste. Task switching waste is a resources person's time, so it's a waste to assign the resources to multiple projects. Waiting. Many people would agree that by definition waiting is a big waste of time. So any type of delay is a waste. Examples of delay in software development are starting the project, getting the right resources, and getting the requirements from the customer, approvals of the documentation, getting answers, making decisions, implementation, testing. Motion. Next principle, motion. Lean software development defines motion for two things: people and artifacts. Motion for people is when people need to physically walk from the desk to another team member, ask the question, collaborate, and so on. When they move from their desk, it is not only the time it takes for the get the discussion what is the waste, but also task switching time. Defects. Unnoticed defects, otherwise known as bugs, are a waste because of the impact of the defect. The defect can cause a snowball effect with the other features, so that time it takes to debug, it is a waste of time. Also for a customer, the value of the software is reduced when they run into the issues, so the features ends up the being waste. So now we can discussing the learn software development continuation. Amplify learning with short sprints. To be able to fine tune software, there would be frequent short iterations for the working software. By having more iterations, developers learn faster, customers can give feedback sooner, features can be adjusted so that they bring customers more value. So delivery as the fast as possible. Empowering the team, build integrity in, optimize the whole. Okay. And in this lab environment for the software development and design content, explore Python development tools. Okay, DevNet associated virtual machine, you have to launch the mission, and you can open the Python environment, and you can work on the Python environment commands. Now you can discussing the software design patterns. Software design patterns. The software design patterns are the best practice solutions for solving common problems in software development. Design patterns are language independent. This means that they can be implemented in any contemporary general purpose computing language or in any language that supports object oriented programming. Often, popular design patterns encourage creation of the add-on frameworks that simply implementation in widely used language and paradigms. The original design patterns are in the design pattern book. The gang of four divided into the patterns into three main categories: creational, structural, behavioral. The creational design pattern are used to guide, simplify, and abstract software object creation at scale. Coming to the structural design pattern, the pattern describing reliable ways of using objects and classes for different kinds of software projects. Behavioral patterns detailing how objects can communicate and work together to meet familiar challenges in software engineering. Okay, they listed a total 23 design patterns, which are now considered and the foundation of the newer design patterns. Most of the patterns at some level express basic principles of good object-oriented software design. Let's dive deeper into the two most commonly used design patterns: observer design pattern and model view controller, MVC. Now let us discuss the first one, observer design pattern. The observer design pattern is a subscription notification design that lets objects, where objects indicates the observers or subscribers, receive events when there are changes to an object. Nothing but subject or publisher they are observing. Examples of the observer design pattern abound in the today's applications. Think about social media. Users or observers follow other user subjects. When the subject posts something on their social media, it notifies all of the observers that there is a post, and the observers look at the update. To implement the subscription mechanism, the subject must have the ability to store a list of all of its observers. The subject must have a method to add and remove observers. All observers must implement a callback to invoke when the publisher sends a notification, preferably using a standard interface to simplify matters for the publisher. This interface needs to declare the notification mechanism, and it needs to have parameter for the publisher to send necessary data to the observer. Okay, you can observe the diagram: subject, observer 1 and observer 2. Observer 1 subscribe. Whenever the observer 1 subscribe the subject state changes the notify observers and notify. And observer 2 subscribe, subject state changes, notify observers and notify to all the information. The execution of the design pattern looks like this. An observer adds itself to the subject list of observers by invoking the subject's method to add an observer. Okay, the benefits of the observer design pattern is that observers can get real-time data from the subject when a change occurs. Subscription mechanism always provide better performance than other options such as a polling. Next one, model view controller. The model view controller MVC design pattern is a sometimes considered an architectural design pattern. Its goal is to simplify development of applications that depend on graphic user interface. MVC abstracts code and responsibility into the three different components: model, view, and controller. Each component communicates with each other in one direction. The design pattern is commonly used in user interface and web applications. Components: model. The model is the application data structures and is responsible for managing the data. The logic and rules of the application. It gets input from the controller. Next component: view. The view is the visual representation of the data. There can be multiple representation of the same data. Next component: controller. The controller is like a middleman between the model and view. It takes an user input and manipulates it to fit the format for the model or view. For example, the execution of the model view controller looks like this. The user provides the input. The controller accepts the input and manipulates the data. The controller sends the manipulated data to the model. The model accepts the manipulated data, processes it, and sends the selected data to the view. The view accepts the selected data and displays it to the user. The user sees the updated data as a result of their input. Okay, the benefit of the model view controller design pattern is that each component can be built in parallel. Because each component is abstracted, the only information each component needs to be input and output interfaces for the other two components. Components don't need to know about the implementation within the other components. Okay, next one, version controller. Version control systems. Types of version control systems. Version control, also called as the version control systems, revision control, or source control, is a way to manage changes to set up the files in order to keep the history of those changes. Think of all the times you have made a copy of a file before modifying it, just in case you want to revert to the original. Version control handles all of that for you. Version control systems store the master set of files and history of changes in a repository, also known as the repo. In order to make a change to a file, an individual must get a working copy of the repository onto their local system. The working copy is the individual's personal copy of the files, where they can make changes without affecting the others. Some of the benefits of the version control are: it enables the collaboration, accountability and visibility, work in isolation, safety, and work anywhere. And also you can using the three types of version control systems are local, centralized, and distributed. And the local version control systems are used to track the files within local system. A local version control system replaces the make a copy of the file before editing further scenario. And also local version control systems are use a simple database to keep track of all the changes the file. Next one, centralized version control system. The centralized version control system uses a server client model. The repository, also known as the repo, which is the only copy of the set of files and history, is stored in the centralized location. In a centralized version control system, only one individual at a time can work on a particular file. Next one, distributed version control system. A distributed version control system, DVCS, is a peer-to-peer model. The repository can be stored on a client system, but it is usually stored in a repository hosting service. In a distributed version control system, every individual can work on any file, even at the same time, because the local file in the working copy is what is being modified. As a result, locking the file is not necessary. Okay, next one, Git. Okay, at the time of writing, the most popular version control system uses Git. Git is an open source implementation of the distributed version control system that is currently the latest trend of software development, because it is easy to learn, easy to handle, it gives the fast performance and built for the collaborative projects, flexible, small footprint, and so it maintains the different benefits, and also it is free. Okay, a Git client must be installed and a client mission, and also you can observe the file view, version view. Okay, and get 3 strategies: repository, staging era, working directory. Okay, and also 3 states: committed, modified, and staged. And also you can see the local versus remote strategies. A local repository is stored in the file system and a client mission. A remote repository is stored in the somewhere other than the client mission. Okay, and also what is branching? Branching enables users to work on code independently without affecting the main code in the repository. And also branches can be local or remote. They can be deleted. Local branches make easy to try. And GitHub and other providers. Okay, dealing with the projects using Git is often associated with the GitHub, but Git and GitHub are not the same. Git is an implementation of the distributed version control and provides the command line interface. GitHub is the service provided by the Microsoft and implements a repository hosting service with Git. And also you can observe the some of the Git commands. Git config global key value. Using the global option, we'll write the global Git config file and create a new repository. Provide the git init command to create the repository and git init. Okay, and also get an existing git repository by using the command git clone. Okay, these are the different commands are used to maintain the data in a repository. Git diff, git command, adding and removing files by using the git add, and also git rm, where rm indicates the remove files, removing the files from the file path, and updating repositories using the git commit command and git push command, updating remote repository. Okay, these are the different commands are used to update or delete or rename or any how to use the git data in the Git or GitHub. Okay, and next class or next video we will discuss on the coding basics, and thank you for watching this video.